We've been telling you what to use and where to go and how to catch your favorite fish for 4 years now. Dave is standing by with a couple of special guests at the workbench. Tonight, it's all about the 100th episode of the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Hello and welcome to the celebration of the 100th show on the Texas Insider Fishing Report. We're your hosts, Brie Gabrielle and Captain Rick Murphy. And you know, Rick, I always say time flies when you're having fun. So we must have been having a lot of fun over the years to get to 100.
It really does. And you know, one of the things that's so cool, Brie, is that we've able to develop a lot of cool relationships with people in Texas and our guides, and we've filmed some shows with them, and I'm really excited to have a couple of them here with us tonight.
It's been a good 4 years.
Yeah.
All right, well, joining us along with Dave Farrell at the CCA workbench is Captain Chad Kinney from the GARMIN Lower Coast region and Matt Loescher from the STARTRON Middle Fresh region, who are giving the reports in person. So happy to have y'all here with us.
Yeah, we got fellas here to talk about what we're talking about, Chad.
Red snapper, tactics, everything else, how to find them, and how to catch them.
Man, what are you doing?
Yeah, we're going to talk about skeeter boats a little bit, talk about the bay boat versus bass boat transition.
And I'm just stealing money.
Oh, yeah.
Like every week,
Standard.
Dave. That's pretty
All
standard.
right. Well, we're heading into our hundreds with Captain Bink Grimes in the ALVEY Reels Middle Coast region, who's feeling the pressure, the barometric pressure, that is. So let's see what we'll be catching this weekend. Happy 100, Bink.
You there, Bink? So Bink, I'm gonna go ahead and start trying to read Bink's while we get him on the phone here. This week in East Matagorda Bay, Tommy Alexander released numerous trout over 5 pounds. They were caught on live shrimp and little johns under a cork. We've been dealing with some storms in the Gulf, and the lower barometric pressure and storms that were building in the Gulf are usually a recipe for big trout, and this week didn't disappoint. The grassy banks along the north shoreline of East Bay are holding solid trout for waders tossing live baits and top waters. In East Matagorda Bay from May to August, the live shrimp always outproduces soft plastics while drifting shell in 5 feet of water. Certainly it beats the 101 degree weather that we have, so don't argue with the fish, and we toss 3-inch crustaceans under a mid-coast popping cork and try to get as many pulls as we can for our customers. The game will change in October, and they'll revert back to bass assassins while drifting. The days get shorter, the water gets cooler, and the shrimp flood the bays. The upper end of West Matagorda Bay has been consistent on the north winds for trout for up to 5 pounds over shell. The shell around Coon Island, the Barge, and Half Moon Reef are holding large schools of trout on live shrimp, bass assassins, and little johns. He says also in Port O'Connor, guide Lynn Smith said that the high tides have scattered the fish in the back lakes and the bayous. You there, Bink?
I am, and there's a lot of small fish under birds on the back reaches of the bay. Those trout have been good on top waters on the incoming tide. And then around Freeport, the back lakes and bayous around Bastrop and Chocolate are good for trout on the reefs. Live shrimp under a popping cork has been good. And the back reaches of Rockport are holding good trout on sand and grass with higher tides. Shorelines in Aransas Bay are holding trout in knee-deep water as well. Redfish, man, September is always prime for redfish. Guide Michael Roth took advantage of the swollen tides this week and caught limits of bruiser reds in West Matagorda Bay. He's been using live shrimp with chunks of mullet under corks. Waders in West Bay have been good on the south shoreline on bass assassins and live shrimp. Bull redfish, they're beginning their trek to the Gulf right now along the beachfront from Surfside to Port Aransas. All the jetties right now are players. Surfside and Freeport are holding a lot of redfish on cracked blue crabs. The Port O'Connor jetty is full of big reds and 35 to 65 foot of water. Same holds true in Port Aransas. As always this time of year, man, we encourage you to keep the slot fish, but man, let those big bruisers go. That's our spawning fish, and we like to take care of them. Black drum is another species that we target this time of year. Those same elevated tides where you're catching those reds, you can probably catch the same black drum on a different cast. Guy Floyd Cerruti of Matagorda has been working the reefs in West Matagorda Bay. for 4 to 5 pound drum. Live shrimp's been the best on mid-coast corks. Spots like Shell Island, Twin Island, Crab Lake, and Oyster Lake has been good. Bill Day's Reef, Panther Reef, and many other reefs in San Antonio Bay is holding a lot of drum there around Seadrift. And then up around Palacios and Trespalascios Bay, those incoming tides have been good for black drum to 20 inches around Boiler and Raymond Shoals. Offshore, our tarpon, we're targeting them right now. The Gulf has been kind of rough with all the storms we've had, and then now the wind's blowing. But man, I tell you, there's a lot of Silver Kings in 25 to 40 foot of water, and those anglers in Port O'Connor are seeing a lot of moving schools up along the beach and the jetty, fish up to 120 pounds. Most anglers are drifting live menhaden in front of fish, and lure chuckers are throwing coon pops. Generally, we see an influx in our tarpon this time of year, first part of September into early October, some of the biggest fish of the year. Don't be surprised to find a fish, pushing 180 to 200 class fish, and there's not a whole lot of traffic this time of year. A lot of people are going back to school, and Texas football is big here, and it's cranking up, and there's just fewer people on the bay. Dove hunting's opening up, teal hunting's opening up, and there's just fewer people on the bay. But so get out there and enjoy it. We're best time of year in Texas.
Sounds like a place to be. All right, thank you so much, Bink, from the ALVEY Middle Coast region. He says that the hot spots inshore, the trout are good in the back lakes in Rockport. On mirror lure, soft deans, and top waters, the redfish are good on shrimp. Fish tight to the grass in West Matagorda Bay, and those tarpon are cruising the beachfront. Best on menhaden and jigs, Brie.
All right, well, we're headed up the coast a bit. We're seeing what kind of hand the Fish Bites Upper Coast region is dealing us inshore and offshore. Talk to us, Carl.
Hey guys, moving right into this week's report. We've been chasing some flounder this week up in Trinity Bay. The water temps have been around 85 to 86 degrees, and a large concentration of flounder have been around the big rock piles. We've been fishing finger mullet and mud minnows. That's been our best live bait options. Now moving a little bit down further to East Galveston Bay, that water temp is 85 to 87 degrees. Flounder bites have been steady around the rock jetties over at Seawolf Park. So down drifting to Oyster Reefs in West Galveston Bay has been producing some nice fish as well. Another good option would be fishing the rocks along the Texas City Dike. Using a 4-inch white bass assassin shrimp with about a half-inch jig head. I try to bounce this off the rocks and around the pier columns. And if you have time to go drifting down the edge of the jetties, you might get some nice fish. Try some fish bite strip bait on a Texas rig or shrimp or crab flavor. And man, they love that stuff. And we got a picture of young Bethany here with a nice 20-inch flatty today.
All right.
Nice.
Looks good, dude. All right, what else you got for us?
We're going to do a little mixed bag starting out over there at Sabine Lake this week, all the way down to Texas City. We should expect the bite to be a little slower with all that fresh water that we got dumped in the estuary this last week. And Sabine Lake's a little stained right now, but they're still pulling limits of trout. They're common, as are redfish. Look for the water that has a little more green color, and your chances will improve. Almost all natural baits is your best bet right now. Topwater baits are better in the cleaner water. They have mirror lure, suspended twitch bait. It would be our choice, but the live bait's still best. So sheep's head are still good on small minnows along the rocks and jetties. Even catfish action is getting strong with cut bait in the backwaters, and the big black drummer hitting the cracked blue crab on the flats around vegetation. We have a picture here today of Shane with a nice trout. Thanks, Shane, for all those great pictures this year that he sent us.
Yeah, man. All right, let's go offshore, Carl.
All right, we're going deep. So as we get closer to the end of the summer here in the Upper Coast, the days are longer, seas are calmer, we run deeper. A lot of us already travel 60 to 80 miles to catch good amberjack. So we like to limit out early if we can and then change it up a bit. There are so many fishing spots, it gives a wide variety of species for us to target. Around some of the same rigs we're catching the amberjack, we'll land some nice scamp, gag, and strawberry grouper. These rigs are also home to some pretty awesome pelagics as well. So moving on out a little further opens up our options for some big tilefish, barrel. The same areas make for a great live bottom drift pattern. I definitely think this is when you should try your luck at some daytime sword fishing, guys. Like these two right here. We got a picture of Captain Brian Wilson and his deckhand Jamie with a beautiful swordfish they caught in the daytime.
Nice.
Uh,
All right, tell us. Got one more to go, bub.
Well, the wahoo have stuck around all year in the Upper Coast. As we touched on in the past, the summertime wahoo are not as large, but they are abundant this year. We've been catching wahoo in areas that usually produce only kingfish at this time. We've also been catching wahoo trolling current breaks for Dorado. Now, when fishing for wahoo, remember to always use a wire leader due to their sharp teeth. Wahoo seem to be hitting the darker colors as far as rigs go. I prefer the R&R tackle. In black and purple, that wahoo magnet seems they can't resist it. And try trolling this lure around 8 to 12 knots. And if you want to up the ante, rig this lure with some fresh ballyhoo. You won't be disappointed. And I think Natasha made another picture with a wahoo this week.
All right. Hey,
Go, girl.
I got a question for you. Today your birthday?
Yes, sir.
Happy
birthday!
All right. Well, tell Natasha to give you a kiss for me. Make sure she tells you it's from me. And I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the Mirror Lure hotspots on that note from the Upper Coast region. He says inshore, flounder, pitching a live finger mullet along the rock piles and the rock jetties for those flounder. And then offshore, troll a purple and black R&R tackle wahoo magnet along the current breaks, 8 to 12 knots, and then tip them with the fresh ballyhoo. What do you think?
You didn't even have a chance to respond. What you doing? All right, stay hooked,
That's
Texans.
what they do around here. They just cut me off.
Because for the 100th time, we are visiting the workbench for rigs and techniques, where Dave is getting a little help from our captain, aren't you, Dave?
A little.
A little, a lot.
I'm getting a lot of help from Chad.
He needs a lot of help.
Yes,
trust
I
me.
do. He's giving it.
He's
Oh,
giving
yeah.
it. All right, well, we'll be right back. But first, here's a look back at our very first episode.
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
Cry.
Tell me.
Hello and welcome to the very first airing of the Texas Insider Fishing Report. We'll be guiding you through everything you'll need to know on how to get that weekend hookup.
We're going to be over here every week showing you how to do rigs and techniques and products you've never seen before.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. CASA VIEJA Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. GARMIN. Join the club. Sportsman's Adventures. Fishing for adventure. And Skeeter Performance Fishing Boats. Eat, sleep, fish.
Reliability. Yamaha is known for it. And it's something boaters value, because these days, few things are built to last. When we find something that is, we hold on to friendships, traditions, outboards. Because every second on the water is sacred. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters choose Yamaha for the long run, for life. Because reliability starts here.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with STARTRON. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with STARTRON.
For the Bay and beyond, team up with the best and rule the Bay in a Skeeter. Proven with 19 consecutive NMMA Consumer Satisfaction Awards. And right now through October 19th, you can fall into savings with rebates of up to $2,500. Versatility, control, performance, and design. Visit your local dealer or online at SkeeterBoats.com and fall into savings through October 19th. Skeeter, it's more than a boat, it's a lifestyle.
Have you ever felt your heart pounding while feeling the power of a tarpon in the Florida Keys? Or experienced the changing colors of a mahi as you bring it on board? Whether it's in the Bahamas, the Florida Keys, Guatemala, or the Florida Everglades, Murphy's Law Sports Fishing has the ability to guide you to the fish of a lifetime. To book your trip today, call 305-246-0673 or go to murphyslawsportfishing.com.
All right, we're here at the Rigs and Techniques workbench here, and we got Chad Kenny from going to help us catch some of these red snappers. Tell us how he does it, how he goes about it. I know you guys are lucky in Texas because you guys have got a red snapper season year-round.
Yeah, so 365 days a year, we're lucky we got great state water fishing. We might run 20 miles off the beach, north or south, but we're still in the state waters, which reaches out 9 nautical miles.
So as long as you stay within 9 miles, you can
stay there,
catch a
you're
red
perfectly
snapper.
good. Yeah, and you're allowed 4 per person instead of just 2 when the federal season's open.
And what's good about where you fish out of, Port Mansfield, is you're got good deep water close by.
Yeah, we got the closest deep water, so we can be literally 5-6 miles from the jetties, and we're in 60 foot.
And that's about where you're wanting to be fishing for
Correct.
these
Yeah,
fish?
we're anywhere from 30 feet up to 90 feet.
All right. Well, when you're out there, where do you like to start? I mean, do you have I know you probably have a ton of numbers, but say if you were going out there, a fellow, just wanting to go try to catch a snapper out of nowhere.
Yeah, so years ago, the way I learned was back then they had paper charts and chart graphs and stuff, and now Garmin's, of course, way up there, and it's working great. You got your sonar, you got your GPS, all these tools at your deal. So if you got a hotspot map or talk to a couple local guys at the dock, steer you in the right direction, all you got to get is a general area, start looking at your Garmin sounder. We were talking about it. You can sit there and you look and you'll be reading, say if you're in 70 foot of water, start going up to like 65, 64. There's a ridge there or a reef there. It starts marking a little bit maybe yellowish and orange, and you'll start marking some fish. Go ahead and drop a test line there.
It doesn't have to be a big spot either, does it? I mean,
lots of times it's just a little wormholes or a little whip coral, and it's just a flat bottom. But you'll mark that on the sounder too. It's going to read a little more yellowish instead of the softer.
Now, I remember when I went fishing with you a couple of years ago. I guess we were out there catching. We did catch them, and but you were saying that sometimes you don't even mark any snapper. Sometimes.
Yeah, lots of times on those hard sand bottom areas, if you mark a spot or two here and you test it, nothing's really going to show up. But you start chumming or get them aggressive on a bite, then they're going to start showing up in your whole sonar. Your Garmin's going to be loaded up, and they'll be more than likely suspended.
I gotcha. Yeah. Now, when you're out there, do you prefer to anchor or do you drift over?
If you can drift, it works great, but you got to check on the currents and conditions all times like that. So you never know until you actually get out there on your situation. Best thing again on that one is use your Garmin. Is I'll set up a good drift, back your boat up into the seas and your conditions and your winds, and it'll show there on your Garmin, how many feet you're away from your mark. So you start out 24 feet on that side of it, make your drift over. If you're going really slow and catching fish, keep drifting. If it's getting really bad and you're moving too fast and those fish can't keep up, or they're closer to the rock, then you can set your anchor out and go.
Put your baits on the structure.
Yep.
Well, talking about baits, what do you like to throw down there after?
As far as a fresh bait, if you can get them from your local marina, you can get like spot croakers, you can get piggies, you can use live croaker, live piggies, pinfish, squid, menhaden, anything you get like that. Bonita works excellent. If you
it sounds like they'll eat anything.
They will. They're carnivorous. They will get after it.
Yeah. Well, do you use it like a chicken rig or a two hook rig or?
What we like to do, we've been talking about, is free line. So you can actually get some of these Eagle Claw trocar hooks. It's hard to see their little 8/0.
All right.
And if you tie that straight to Momoy, we've been using 30-pound direct straight to it, and you just free line it out with these calmer conditions, which we've got coming up here in September. And just free line it out, and you'll get those suspended fish up. You'll see them, and they'll hit it like that. If not, definitely a double rig. If you get in a situation where after a storm or something, there's higher currents, then go to about 130-pound Momoy and do a double rig with a bank weight and get to the bottom, because those fish will be holding tighter.
And you like to use that heavier leader too? Why?
Yeah, so we're mentioning
this is a great
you cut your hands up all the time when you get these lighter leaders, or definitely don't do the braid on a leader because it'll get you. But rule of thumb, if you do 130-pound or heavier, 100-pound about being the lightest, you can do a wrap on that with your hand and lift those snapper up over the boat straight in the cooler, and you can take a dehooker and
save your rigs and your hand at the same time. Now, when you get a bite, what's your? I mean, you're not going to be jerking on it.
Well, it depends, unless you're using an Eagle Claw, jig, which I love using right now. We're talking about those. So, like, if you can get a 1 ounce to a 3 ounce jig, and you got down our lighter currents, and go ahead and set the hooks on those. Yeah. If you're using paddle tail with it, already rigged up. If you're free lining the circle hook, then what you want to do is you got to let them run, kind of like you're free lining croaker. They'll hit, let them run, count to 5 or 15, 20 feet off there, and just engage your reel and start reeling and let them take a run. It'd be perfect. Like
reel.
Reel. Let them run.
Reel.
Yeah.
Well, is there any other species that you catch often while you're out there trying to catch these red snappers?
Yeah, so you can run some mangrove snapper. You can get a few gag groupers spotted here and there. Right now, there's kingfish everywhere out there, which you can catch them trolling. You catch them free lining. If you're catching free line, they start biting you off. Go to a wire leader, tied up with a haywire twist, and everything's out there now. Ling will pop up. You just never know in the summer. And then wintertime comes around, the bigger snapper actually show up in our state waters, and we're fishing state waters year round.
Well, beautiful, man. Well, thank you very much, and we're going to have you back to do your report live here in a minute.
Live here in Studio A.
Live Chad.
Texas Insider Fishing Report. That was great, Chad. So good to have you here. All right, well, let's see what big bites the lower fresh region is gracing us with on Choke Canyon, Lake Falcon, Travis, Butt Cannon, Fayette, and Somerville. We're missing you in the studio, Matt.
Yeah, it would be nice to be there, but I just had work scheduled already. It's got to take care of it.
Gotta work. Let's hear it.
All right, let's get this show on the road. Let's get it started. Mike Bates has sent me a report from Choke Canyon. There's still a topwater bite early in the morning. Topwater spinnerbait or a swim bait on the outside edge of the hydrilla. It's only lasting until about 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So hit that outside grass line and cover as much water as you can. After the sun gets higher, they're going to slow down and get you a Texas rig and cast it where the creeks or the points come close to the grass. The best way to catch a big one right now is to get you a big weight on braided line with a big worm or other type of creature bait and punch it through the matted hydrilla vertical. Numbers will be down, but your size will be up. He's caught fish up to 8 pounds this week doing that. Moving on down to Falcon. The bass are biting really well. They concentrate on the main lake rock in about 10 to 20 foot of water. Throw you a deep crankbait or a football jig, and that's your best shot to catch you a big one. Also look for the man-made brush piles in that same depth. Throw you a Texas rig in there with a 10 or a 12-inch worm. Great way to add a bunch of big fish to your catch during the day. Moving to the Austin area, Brian Cotter sent me a report from Lake Travis. We've had a little bit cooler nights lately, and that's improved that topwater bite. They're on the bluff walls and in the back of the deep pockets. After the sun gets high, move on out, get you, a Texas rig or a football jig out in that 20 to 45 foot of water, even on those rock ledges out there in that gin clear water at Travis to get you a big one. Also, you might check out some brush piles. The fish in those brush piles will bite a Texas rig. The only trouble in the piles is the zebra mussels will cut your line a bunch. Lake Buchanan is producing well. Top waters are doing great on the retaining walls and riprap early in the morning. Later on, get your crankbaits and jigs out, get on the structure, and that's the best way to catch a big one. Greg Boyk has sent me a report from Fayette County. It's basically the same report we had last week. We're in those summer dog days. Thermocline's at about 19 foot, stay just above it, out on the main lake. Main lake points and ledges. Throw you a Carolina rig or a big heavy drop shot out there to catch those fish. There's also some fish suspended above the thermocline, out over 25 to 40 foot, some big ones. You can catch those on a flutter spoon. Just beginning to see some schooling fish in the Three Fingers and Buzzard Point area. Not a bunch, but it's just beginning to happen. Somerville, it's pretty slow right now, but starting to see a little bit of uptick. Deep silent crankbait. Silent because there's been so much pressure and those fish seem to be reacting to the silent crankbait better on the main lake in that 15 to 20 foot range. Also throw you a 10-inch worm, on the road beds on the south end around the island or in the brush piles. That's been the best way to catch them at Somerville. Got a pick there of old Ken Sumter with a big old bass from Falcon with me a little while back.
All right, that is a big old bass. Tell me about a little old crappie.
Crappie fishing at Falcon's been real good lately, as it always seems to be. Concentrate on the brush piles in that 15 to 25 foot range. Get you an 1/8 ounce jig. Sit right over the brush, drop it down to them. Drop it into the pile. You want to hold it still. That's the best way to get a bite. Crappie will only feed up, so try to pick them out on your electronics. Hold it right over his head. Hold it still, and that's the best way to catch them. And man, what a great eating fish. Moving on to some white bass and hybrids. Lake Somerville, the white bass and hybrids are schooling on the lower end. They're roaming the flats all up and down around the dam and so forth. You can troll a lipless crankbait or a deep crankbait to find them. Once you find them, get you a 1 ounce jig and spoon, sit over them, and you can just add numbers in a hurry once you get on top of them.
All right, Matt, great report this evening. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the lower fresh hot spots. Matt says the weather is hot, but so is the bass fishing on Falcon Lake. Concentrate on the main lake rock piles with big crankbaits and football jigs. Also hit the brush piles with Texas rig 10-inch worms to have a blast.
Having a blast. Well, speaking of having a blast, coming right up on the Texas Insider Fishing Report is our Upper Fresh Region report. And we're talking to our captain in the GARMIN Lower Coast region, who's giving his report live here in the studio. But before we go, here's a look back at Rick trying to explain the term breast brim.
Oh boy.
Let's see it.
You know, let me ask you, when they get to be that big, do they call them breast brim in Texas?
Yes, sir.
A lot of people don't know what that means, but a breast brim, if they put the camera on me, I'll show you. The brim is so big that you can't get your hand around it. So what ends up happening is they put it against your breast so that you can take the hook out, Brie.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Isn't that right?
Cool.
See, I got that.
Learn something new every day. Thanks, Rick.
I can't wait to see Brie do that.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Contender Boats, always in the game. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. ALVEY Reels, a better way to fish. And Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection 4-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO offshore.
Why is CASA VIEJA Lodge on everyone's bucket list?
Left teaser! Left flat as well, 2 fish! They're everywhere! Right flat teaser as well! Left flat, right flat teaser!
Come to CASA VIEJA Lodge and check it off your list.
Finding a shoreline is easy. Finding a sure thing is not. For over 20 years, anglers from Kitty Hawk to California and every shore in between have come to know one thing: that nothing says no to fish bites. So just stop with the fishing and get busy with the catching. Ask for Fish Bites or Fish Bites Fight Club lures or visit fishbites.com.
Well, as you can tell, I have the Middle Fresh guide, Matt Loescher, with me. And, you know, Matt, you fish out of a Skeeter bass boat, and Johnny Geis from the Upper Fresh region has this exact boat he's guiding out of. And the one thing I think so cool is how Skeeter has been able to cross over both in salt and in fresh. So why don't you tell me about some of the similarities that you see that you have in your bass boat versus this bay boat?
Sure thing. So if we start at the back here, you know, you've got your power pole on your transom like we would do on a bass boat, similar situation there. Powered the boat by a Yamaha 150 on this rig here. You can go up to a 200 horsepower motor on this SX 210.
Right.
Moving up, you got your hydraulic jack plate, similar to what we would use on a bass boat if you wanted to. And then as you move on up, you got a live well here, just like what we would kind of use in a bass boat. This is a really cool setup from Skeeter. You know, you can put your bait in here if you wanted to, or it's big enough to hold some redfish or trout if you're in the salt water, or if you wanted to fish a bass tournament out of it, you could keep bass alive in here.
Yeah, you could put your 5 bass in there.
Absolutely, works out great.
Now, in the bass boat, do you guys sit across, you have flip-up seats like this, or?
We don't have the flip-up seats, and that's a nice feature. You know, that's a really cool deal. Gives you some extra seating behind the console here, where you can really kick back and relax. And they've got some storage under here as well.
Exactly. So flip that seat down there, Matt, for real quick. That seat, flip it down. That's also becomes part of the deck. Now, as we move forward here, let's talk a little bit about a leaning post, which allows you to stand behind the center console instead of necessarily sitting.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's nice to have the leaning post here, and you can stand up and be really comfortable. It's wide open. You can walk all the way around it.
Yep.
And you don't have to climb in and out behind the console, so works really neat.
And speaking of the console, you got your batteries in there for your trolling motor as well as your engine battery. What about the flush mount Garmin?
Man, it's really sleek and clean looking. I like the way they did that. They got it flush mounted there. It's right at your fingertips when you're driving. You're looking right at it. You got the big windshield right up here above you. All the controls that you need, including your jack plate right here at the steering wheel.
Yeah, a couple cup holders for your beverage. But you guys lay a lot of rods on the deck. I noticed that on the saltwater bay boats, a lot of times we stand our rods up because of the non-skid.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about what we got here, Matt. This is actually a cooler as well as a live well, correct?
Yep. You can use this as a cooler for your cold drinks, or you could double it as a live well. It's even got a light in there for when you're using it at night.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the lockable rod storage there, Matt, that you got right there.
This is a really cool deal. This is very similar to what you would see in a Skeeter bass boat. You know, you've got your rod tubes in there to keep your rod tips separated and organized, keep them from rattling together, and a little hole back here for the butt end of the rod to fit in so they're not bouncing around on you, as well as your light poles are in there as well.
And certainly, guys, a lot of beautiful non-skid instead of carpet. But if you have any questions whatsoever, we're going to go to skeeterboats.com to answer those questions. Hey, you did a good job, man. Way to go.
Thank you.
Way to go. This is a good show. All right, let's head up to the Upper Fresh region and hear all about the action happening on Lake Fork and Rick's favorite to say, Lake Tawakoni. Johnny Geis could not be with us tonight, but Rick is filling in. Rick, I have
You have his report?
his report right here.
Oh, well, thank you so much, my assistant.
Sidekicked for 100 episodes.
So,
let's do it.
Let's talk a little bit. You know, he says congratulations to our 100th episode, of course. But the first thing he's talking about, Brie, is on Tawakoni, you got the stripers. The big stripers have been biting fantastic the last few days, according to his buddy Matt Cartwright, the guide, and his customers over in Tawakoni. Matt is starting at daybreak each morning, catching a limit of sand bass, which are all schooling up at first light. And then the whites are feeding on threadfin shad and can be caught on poppers and walk the dog style of topwaters baits. This makes excellent blow-ups. Being able to unhook them several treble hooks slows down the catch rate, of course, but you can certainly burn a slab through the schooling fish and catch them just on one little treble hook on the back. You can also throw small swim baits. The only one that you have to worry about is one hook at that time, which is faster and safer when you're in the frolic of a bunch of big schools. Matt also is catching some good hybrids mixed in as well. Each year around this time, Matt's patterns big stripers using large flutter spoons, big slabs, and swim tail paddle baits. After his customers have a box of white bass, Matt searches for big stripers over the structure with his side scan electronics. Johnny also says that Matt is finding large schools of big stripers, and they are using bunches bunched up and ready to feed. They are casting heavy flutter spoons and stripers, letting them fall to the bottom. The quick sweep of the rod tip on those flutter spoons, and it really makes a huge difference on the way they bite. Chartreuse seems to be the right color with a little pearl. He also is here, or he has a couple pictures of some recent anglers that Matt sent in. So you got, look at all those big stripers there, Brie, as well as a bunch of, there's a couple hybrids mixed in. Nice. Also, Johnny reports that the crappie on Lake Fork. This summer has been a busy one for the crappie fishermen on Fork. The interest and the focus on big crappies is at an all-time high, and more anglers are starting to make Fork their primary destination for crappie fishing. The average size of the crappie on the fork is outstanding, and there are some giant ones holding on deep floating timber. With the arrival of the GARMIN Live Scope, more and more anglers are adding this great piece of equipment to their boats and learning how to locate big crappies. He has had the Live Scope. Johnny's had a Live Scope for just over a year now, and he keeps learning new areas, tricks to catch bigger crappie. And being able to watch their behavior of the schools of crappie is very interesting. Every day seems to be a new learning experience as they watch how the crappie react to the jigs and the minnows. And since the crappie are primarily a school fish, Johnny is constantly amazed on how they react to different and on certain days and even times of the day. Some of the crappie days, they catch them off of bait, and then there's other days they dangle a jig or a minnow right in their mouth and can't entice a bite. So it can also be frustrating challenge at the times, but he certainly can tell the difference with the Live Scope as to their behavior while he's watching him on his screen. He's learning how to control the boat positioning is critical. That's all part of what the Live Scope's bringing to him. This week he's located some big schools of white bass with the Live Scope, and it's very interesting watching how the bass attack lures and not get hooked. And in the past, it is an easy way to lose contact with the big schools, fast-moving sand bass, and now they have to be able to desire Live Scope in 75 to 100 feet and find them again. You may have heard an old saying, 90% of the fish are in 10% of the water. Well, GARMIN Live Scope is helping him quickly find the 10%. Johnny always got some kind of perfect little saying. So let me tell you about these photos. He's got a couple photos, one of a mixed bag of crappie and the other one of some mite bass. So how about that? All caught with using the Live Scope.
I believe it.
All right. So
Let's
what do
hear
you
the
think?
hot spots. What do you say?
All right, the hot spots from the upper fresh region, good catch there, is Lake Tawakoni. The fishing is good. The water's slightly stained, 88 to 92 degrees. It's 1.18 foot low. The stripers and sand bass biting on live shab and slabs and spoons. Lake Fork, the water is lightly stained, 87 to 92 degrees and 1.55 low. The largemouth bass are good on football jigs with plastic crawls, shaky head, worms near standing timber, points and drop-offs in 18 to 28 feet of water, and the crappie are good on jigs and minnows.
Are you losing some oxygen, or you're
Man,
good
I
here?
might need to take a time out. I need to go outside, have a drink.
Okay, go take a time out. I
Maybe
got
go
you.
to the potty.
All right, we have Captain Chad Kinney from the GARMIN Lower Coast region in the flesh, ready for the spotlight. Chad, this is your moment. Take it away. Let's hear your report.
I tell you what, it's great. September's my favorite time of year to fish. This is our 100th show, so everything's going on great, but September is really here. It's good. Talked to Doug Stanford before I came up here, and he's talking about the redfish. Been around Klondike Islands and the oyster reefs. With the water being up, mainly they're up on top of the oyster reefs, and the trout fishing's also really good around the wellheads, Corpus Christi Bay area, and the oyster reefs on there also. For the trout action, head over to Corpus Christi and the wellheads. He's a free line and live shrimp primarily. That's working really good. Also using a popping cork, 24 inch to 36 inch with Momoy fluorocarbon leader. Works really good on that. If you're live piggies, if they're available anywhere, they're kind of spotty right now. We're starting to catch them on our own shrimp boats, but if you can get some live piggies, they're working really, really well this fall, and if they're available. So free line those around the wells as well, and maybe attach a chatterweight even to it for the trout action will be really good. If you're using soft plastics, saltwater assassin sea shads, working really good. Rigged out with 1/8 ounce jig head and worked that through the water column. There's also been some trout along the edges of the oyster reefs, so live shrimp and popper cork working well there. Moving over to the redfish around Klondike Islands been working really well with live piggies. Also some free line and shrimp. You can use some cut skipjack, also known as ladyfish, some mullet, working really good. Use on a Carolina rig, like using an Eagle Claw 5/0 to 7/0 kale hook, works really well. When you use the cutting bait, for a real good tip is make sure you just barely pin it through the flesh and up through the skin. The reason is it'll leave more exposure on that barb there. You'll get a lot better hook sets when you're using bait on that area like that. And the redfish also been on top of the reefs using the same method, live piggies, cut mullet, menhaden. And the tide should be starting to drop out here pretty soon, so that'll change up the pattern of the fish, and we'll keep you posted here on some future reports on that one. But I got a good picture of a 44 inch redfish here that was released, a big old bull red there. We released that one.
pretty.
Man, you'd think that
nice.
guy'd be smiling bigger than that, catching a redfish
Oh, he's
like that,
smiling
Chad.
under all that mustache. Don't you worry. I see it.
It's because he's not wearing a hat like you got on there, Rick. That's the reason.
All right, that's exactly right. All right, let's go offshore, bud.
Offshore, moving to snapper bite in state waters, as we talked about earlier in the show here, it is just on fire. It's excellent. Water clarity's getting a lot better. This weekend's forecast looks really, really good. Plenty of kingfish action also in state waters, and there's pelagics out deep around the 100-fathom curve and better. So starting with state snapper bite, like we mentioned, it's excellent. The water clarity is getting better. GARMIN GPS, we mentioned earlier, they'll definitely get you to the spot, keep you on the spot. Also use your sounder to keep you on your location to see where the fish are at. And if the weather forecast is so good, if you don't have a big offshore boat or a big center console or a contender, definitely utilize a big boat like I've got, like a Shallow Sports 26-foot X3. Boat's very stable, and when you got it powered by a 300 Yamaha, I mean, it's the best ride, and you got the reliability of the Yamaha behind it, and you can head offshore and not just a couple miles. You can go 15, 20 miles out easily on that boat. Go to your favorite spot, take some extra bait, some chum. Right now you can literally chum the snapper up to the top and kind of pick which ones you want to target, which ones you want to catch. Just kind of free line like we mentioned a little bit earlier. Get an eagle claw, circle hook, and free line it right on out there, and let them run a little bit, set the hook, and get some action right there. So I got a picture. I was on my offshore boat, my 46 Birch, and we got a picture of a Shallow Sport X3 here with Captain Gila and some guys with ALVEY reels, and they're fighting kingfish right there. They're 20 miles offshore right there.
Nice. So, all right. What else you got? One more to go?
Yeah, sure do. So moving over here, the kingfish remains really thick in state waters. You can use ribbon fish floating out the back while snapper fishing. Mirror lure divers are working excellent on this stuff. I like trolling those about 4 to 6 knots, gets them down a little bit deeper. And those kingfish love that shiny little lip there and the color that Rick's got there. Go ahead and moving out to some deeper stuff. The pelagics are out there. You can get some blue marlin this type of year. It's our best bill fishing month, really. So blue marlin, white marlin, some sailfish scattered out there along the 100-fathom curve up to Nueces Dome. You can try colt out there in that area. And if you're targeting some other, like Dorado or some blackfin tuna or anything else like that, and then go ahead and downsize to some smaller islanders and troll them at the same speed and rig with them with ballyhoo.
All right, man. Chad?
I'd say you did a good job.
I'd say you did do a good job.
I think we'll have you back next year.
Good, I'm ready to get some more fishing in. I'm ready.
I think these guys only came for a day of fishing. That's why they came. They didn't come for the 100th episode.
Yes, they did.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the shallow sport boat hotspots from the lower coast region. Inshore, Corpus Christi Bay around the wells is good on trout and redfish are around the oyster reefs and on the higher tides. And then offshore, state water snapper bite has been excellent with plenty of kingfish action, pelagics out deeper and around the 100-fathom curve.
All right, well, time is definitely flying because we're hearing from just one more guide in the STARTRON Lower Fresh region who will also be giving his report live today. But first, Dave has some 100-worthy new products over there at the workbench, don't you, Dave?
100 worthy, that's for sure.
100-worthy.
Got some nice ALVEY bait casters.
Ooh,
brand spanky in the country.
And a cake.
Very nice.
And cake.
I'll be right back.
Don't forget about
the
cake.
Don't look at my cake.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a mirror lure. Diamond Fishing Products. Our reputation is on the line. And STARTRON. Cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems.
At the pinnacle of super high output, 4-stroke outboard performance, you'll find Yamaha VMAX SHO, Yamaha's game-changing SHO technology. From exhilarating V6 models to the sleek inline 4s, there's a VMAX SHO for everything from bass to bonefish. It's an extended family of 4-strokes engineered for lightweight, inspiring performance, and rock-solid reliability. Discover VMAX SHO and elevate your expectations.
only reel with over 100 years of heritage. ALVEY reels are manufactured using the most reliable components. ALVEY state-of-the-art drag and retrieve rates are perfect for any fishing challenge. So whether it's a side cast or spinning reel, ALVEY makes a reel that best fits your needs. ALVEY reels are manufactured to best practice standards and are in fact so robust that the ALVEY also comes with up to a 10-year salt and sand warranty. For more information, go to alveus.com.
Today's Power Pole tip of the week is about the extension kit that you might need for your charge system. Now let me explain a little further. You know, always in technical poling skiffs and a lot of these bay boats, your cranking battery for your big motor is not necessarily in the same place as your trolling motor batteries because we use the battery weight for ballast. So my Maverick in particular has the trolling motor batteries all the way up in the bow, where the charge is mounted inside the console, and I don't have long enough leads. So Power Pole created an extension kit for your charge, and it's really simple. All we're gonna simply do is cut the wires that are going to the trolling motor batteries, and this extension kit is easily shrink wrap the wires, and now you have the ability to have the batteries in one place and your charge system in another place. So if you have any questions about the charge, you can simply go to powerpole.com, and that's today's Power Pole tip of the week.
You fellas better not put it on you unless you tell your wife beforehand that you're going to have some glitter from someplace else on you. You know, make sure that they know where the glitter is coming from, because the girls are all sparkly these days, and if your wife ain't sparkly, you don't want to come home with any sparkly on you. So, anyway. That's good. That's good information, right? That's,
you always have good advice.
That's good advice.
Keeping you out of trouble when it comes to the sparkler.
And I always get blamed for that for some reason. I don't know what. Anyway, started before I get myself in trouble. Okeechobee Flats tackle bag right there. Get it from Academy Sports. You know, a very nice little bag. Main compartment holds up to 5 of 10x6 holders there. Utility boxes.
Right.
It's got a removable tool sheath on one side. It's I left the zip locks on. The zip ties on there so you couldn't steal it. There's one front pocket and 2 side pockets and a nice shoulder strap.
God is punishing you.
He is.
Choose your words.
I shouldn't have insinuated that you would steal something. Black mesh catch-all in the back, so you can throw all your stuff in there and let it dry out. And go get your Academy store. It's on clearance right now. It was in my store, so run out there and get one really cheap.
That's right. Go to your local Academy.
Okeechobee Flats. All right, next we got these ALVEY Orbiter bait casters. Like I said, these are just brand new in the country. Really high-quality little bait casters built to handle, barramundis, the big snook-like creatures that they got in the inshore areas of northern Queensland, Australia. And, these things will hold 8 kg or 16 some odd pounds of drag, which is more than most of your rods will hold. And 6 ball bearings in there, stainless steel ball bearings, 1-piece die cast frame. It's got a very incredibly light, 300 grams, I think it is. And it's got a really nice magnetic adjustment on the side, so you can put your brakes on when you want to. And a nice anodized aluminum spool, 7.1 to 1 gear ratio. It just goes on and on. It's just a really great reel. Nice big handles on there with the UV foam. It's just a really big, really small reel, but got a lot of power in it.
ALVEUS.com.
Comes in left hand or right hand.
That's right.
All right. Next, we got some jaw lures. That's the Offshore Dominator, but we're going to talk mainly about these tuna and mahi feathers. They're rigged in tandem to give it kind of like a chase bait type of deal. These are the 4.5-inch feathers. They're great for tunas and wahoos. They're rigged on a 100-pound test with 7/0 3407 mustads in them, stainless steels. Great for blackfin, yellowfin, mahi. Everything will eat that. The feathers, they just don't do anything except go straight and get eaten.
That's cool.
That's a great thing about a feather.
And Bree, he's talking about stealing.
You can have those.
How this disappears.
I'll let you have those.
I'm going to fish with Chad. I'm carrying them with me.
Yeah, if I accused you, you can have those. Next, we have the Mirror Lure Marsh Minnows. these aren't exactly new, but I wanted to have them on here because they're really good little lures. That's the 3.75 inch, and they also have a 3-inch junior. They have a really nice bait profile. It looks like a little bait fish. Got a really big tail on them, so that it kicks really hard, and they're super soft, and they've packed with a ton of scent. I don't know what the scent is exactly, but they got a lot of scent to them, and they're 6 per bag. So yeah, what do they taste like? Is that garlic? It smells
like
kind of garlicky.
Garlic and salt.
There you go. Well, that's
what it
perfect.
is.
So you go to Maryland.
Do I have any glitter in my teeth?
No. You put those on a jig head and just reel them back to you and let that tail do all the work, and you'll catch fish with them for sure.
You'll catch Ricks with
Brie,
them.
when I was one of those little
Mirrorlure.com.
kids, I just had to put everything in my mouth.
Yeah.
Still a little kid, I guess.
That's what's wrong with you. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you your guide from the STARTRON Middle Fresh region, Matt Loescher, who has all the updates on Toledo Bend, Richland Chambers, Lake Fairfield, and LBJ. Take it away, Matt. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here, Brie. It's exciting to be here for the 100th episode. Really cool milestone there.
Yep.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the fishing this week. As you know, at Toledo Bend, we were hit pretty hard by Hurricane Laura. It dumped quite a bit of rain in a short amount of time, and so it really muddied up the backs of the creeks and some of the main lake as well on the upper end near the river. It also caused the lake to rise about 6 inches in just a few days, which is a lot when you consider the size of Toledo Bend. So when you begin to look for bass this weekend, I would start by going to the mud line in the creeks and then kind of work my way out from there toward the main lake, focusing on the channel swing points as well as the bluff wall areas that the fish can use to move up with the rapid rise of water without spreading out onto the flats. And don't worry too much about bait, not bait, but depth right now, because you can find fish in all depth ranges. You can really run the same pattern whether you're fishing shallow, mid-range, or deep water right now. And you may also find fish in the drains that run off the main lake that don't have much flow, because those won't be muddy, but the fish can still use them to follow bait fish as they move and up with that shallower water, into that shallower water with the water rising. The same baits that have been working will still be effective, which are crankbaits and worms. You can choose your crankbait based on the depth that you're fishing. You'll want one that will grind into the bottom and deflect off the cover. And then as for the worm, I like to use either the Bass Assassin Little Tapper or the 7-inch worm right now in Junebug or Houdini colors. Now, moving up to Richland Chambers, Mr. Thurman Selman reports that not much has changed since last week. They weren't really affected by the storm up there, so the water is still clean and the temperature is hanging in the upper 80s. He has been catching some fish early in the morning on various topwater baits. Then once the sun gets up, he's switching to a flipping pattern. He's getting really tight to the cover with creature baits, and he has also been Carolina rigging offshore some. Then over on Lake Fairfield, he reports a similar pattern. He's using topwater baits early in the morning, and then he's changing over to a flipping pattern once the sun gets up. But there's lots of grass in Lake Fairfield, so he's focusing mainly on that grass with his creature bait once that sun gets up, pitching it really tight into the places like the holes in the grass. Now, switching it up a little bit this week, I want to talk about something new. I want to talk about bow fishing for a minute. We're still in these dog days of hot summer weather here in the Middle Fresh region, and so it's much more pleasant to get on the lake at night right now. My good buddy Jared Poole with Hill Country Hammer Guides and Outfitters has found a way to do just that and have a ton of fun doing it by guiding bow fishing trips on Lake LBJ. He has gotten an awesome rig to do it in, and they're really having a good time with it. So the way these trips work is these guys head out about an hour before dark just to go over safety procedures and kind of teach you how to properly shoot and load the bows. Then they will give you some basic instruction on bow fishing, like how to aim while dealing with the light refraction so that you can actually hit the fish, because that can be challenging, and then you can get started. I'd highly recommend taking a trip with Jared and his crew. He's a first-class guy. As you can see from these photos that we're gonna put up here, it's just a ton of fun. So we've got 2 photos here for you. The first one is of Jared's rig that he's got all set up for bow fishing, really first-class operation there. And then the second photo is of Jared and his buddies there with some big fish they've been shooting.
Hi, Matt. Nice. You know, I want to ask you, I know that you live in the east side of Texas. Tell us a little bit about the storm, what it did to you.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. We got a lot of wind, quite a bit of rain in a short period of time, anywhere from 3 to 6 inches in some areas. And it was pretty devastating. You know, it really put a lot of trees down, made a lot of power outages. We got a big mess to clean up.
You got power at your house?
No, I don't.
Not yet.
Not yet.
All right, well, guys, there's a lot of people that have been affected by the storm. Our prayers are certainly with you guys. If you guys know of anything, how we can help, please give us contact us at the TexasInsiderFishingReport.com. And I'm going to take a look at your hotspots, man, see what you said for this week. My man Matt says that the bass are hanging outside the mud lines on Toledo Bend and tight to the shallow cover on Richland Chambers and Lake Fairfield. And then the bow fishing is great way to beat the heat. So you might want to try that on LBJ, right, Matt?
That sounds good.
So Matt, good job tonight. Chad, thank you guys so much for coming from Texas to join us here in the studio. And you know, next year we're gonna have all the guides come in. We're gonna try to do it every other week. I think it's neat to have you guys in the studio. What do you think, Brie? What do you think, Dave?
Texas in the house.
Texas in the house, going into our hundreds. We need to get you all in here some more.
The other thing that's really cool about tonight is Guy Harvey. He created our logo 4 years ago, 100 episodes ago. And so what we've done is we've gotten one of these signed by Guy for everybody who's worked on this show. So all the captains and all the staff are gonna get this. This is yours, Brie.
Thanks.
Dave.
Very nice.
When you guys get home, I'm sure Guy will have mailed it to you.
Awesome.
And you know what, Chad? Dave accused me of stealing, so I know we're going to be doing a Sportsman's Adventure episode.
So let's just make sure we
take those so we can share those offshore.
Sharing is caring. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. We're going into our hundreds. Thank you all for being here on set. Go out there and catch some fish, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.